Hi, this is Alex with Zeta Sky. This is a video for new users to Mac. In this video, we're going to cover what is called virtual desktops. Now, that actually has nothing to do with the cloud desktop, even though that's a virtual desktop. They just happen to share a name. Virtual desktop is kind of a full screen feature for the Mac, is probably the best way to put it. So in Windows, they're used to maximizing and the window taking up the full screen like this. And you can still do that, by double-clicking on the title bar here. But you'll notice this green button here, which is the what you would think is the maximize button. It's the full screen button. You can point to it, and you have some options here. You can move it to different monitors or move it to the left and right of the screen. But the one I actually want to show you is enter full screen, which is the default. If you don't hover over the button, if you just click it, it's going to go into full screen. And you'll notice that the menu bar at the top went away. And if my dock was on this screen, that would disappear as well. The dock is like the taskbar in Windows. Once it's in full screen here, you'll notice that you can't interact with any other apps or anything because it's taking up the full screen. There's a couple different ways to interact with other apps. One thing you can do, if you just drag your mouse to the top of the screen here, it'll bring up the menu bar. So the menu bar is just hidden. And then you also see the title bar here with the green button again where I can click it and it'll go back to a normal window. And if I had the dock would show back up here. But I'm going to go back into full screen here. Another way is if you use mission control, like was shown in the trackpad and gestures video. So on mission control, if I bring that up, you'll see that instead of showing the window down here, like mission control normally does, it shows it up here. And that's because up here is where it lists virtual desktops. And so I can go back to my regular desktop here, or I can switch over to the other desktop that I opened for Edge. And you can switch between multiple full screen apps this way as well. And you can even manually create new desktops by clicking the plus button here. So I have desktop 2. Now right now desktop 2 and desktop 1 are exactly the same thing. But I could open up different apps in these. This is a good way to maybe separate your work. Let's say you're working on, two different projects, and you have certain windows and apps that you're using for one project, and certain windows and apps you're using for another project. Project A could be desktop 1, project B could be desktop 2, and you can easily switch between them. That way you're kind of focusing yourself on the current context of what you're working on. You may also notice if I hover over this, there's an X in the top left. Since this is a desktop, I have the option of just closing it. And that desktop's gone. We're back down to the 2 that I had before. Now if I hover over a full screen app, you notice that it's not close. It has this button here, which is how to turn it back into a window without actually having it in focus. So I can just click that button and it's back to a window and it puts itself back on the desktop here. So that's a way that you can organize and manage your work. And I also find it very useful if you only have one screen, especially if it's a smaller screen. You may actually want to full screen every app you open to get rid of the menu bar, get rid of the dock, and to switch between them. Now, one of the gestures that I did not cover in the gestures video because I wanted to cover it in the virtual desktops video is there's the gesture to switch between virtual desktops. Let's look it up and see what it is. If you ever forget what a gesture is, you go to Preferences, go to Trackpad, and go to most of them are in the More Gesture section. Some of them are in Point Click. But here, swipe between full screen apps. So you see swipe left or right with 3 fingers. And that'll swap between full screen apps or virtual desktops. So I put this back into full screen. If we look, we have the full screen app and the desktop here. So if I do that gesture, I can just switch between full screen apps. And I don't have to bring up mission control or anything like that. I can just slide between them really quickly. If I had more open, I could switch between all of them. And the way you swipe between them is in the exact order that it shows up here. So from Microsoft Edge, I can go left to desktop 1 or right to desktop 2. But from desktop 2, I can't get to desktop 1. I have to go left twice. So the layout is exactly what you see up here. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know.